Welcome, everyone, to the Meaningful Hearts podcast, where we discuss the everyday questions that make us or break us if we let them. I am your host, Drew. Take my hand and let's walk this journey together.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Meaningful Hearts podcast. I know usually Drew is the one that starts off saying welcome back, but I thought that I could take on the challenge and surprise Drew and maybe everyone listening.
I put her up to it. She's like, no, I can't bring in the episode. But she's awesome at it. I just want to listen to her. Honestly, I don't even want to talk on this podcast anymore. I'll create an AI, whatever, and I'll just sit back and listen to her talk.
No, let's not do that.
Okay.
But in any case, today I want to do something a little bit different, but not really.
Okay.
Just a little bit of a different topic. And this actually comes from one of Drew's previous episodes. I can't remember which one, but one of the things that resonated with me from one of his episodes is when you were talking about our escape, a place that we can go to heal. You know, because so many of us spend so much time in our head, but it's not really a nice place to be a lot of the time. So what better way to talk about healing and self-growth than to self-disclose my quote-unquote escape and yours, or Drew.
All right. Well, if you must know, I like to escape to my room, my laboratory, my place that I could be most creative. I like to isolate myself around books, visuals, things that just inspire me. And I write on a daily basis. That definitely helps me get ideas, thoughts out onto paper. I also like to draw. Drawing is one of those things that in the recent years has become a big part of my life in a lot of ways. It's a skill that I developed. When I was a kid, I thought I couldn't draw. My brother was the guy who could draw them, and I got really fascinated by it, and I just started to indulge in it over the pandemic. So that's something that I really dive into. And things that just bring me joy, or just digging into some YouTube videos that give me some information on things that, you know, I'm a little more curious about. So that's really my escape. It's just my laboratory. It's like my secret laboratory where it's just me and my stuff, and everybody else is locked out. Nobody can enter. That's my escape. That's where I go. How about you, Daniela? Do you have a laboratory?
So before I share mine, I think it's really funny that you described a physical place and also activities as like escapes. Because, you know, the great thing about exploring what our escapes are is that there's no right or wrong. It's whatever it means to you, whatever it means to anybody listening, whatever it means to me. There's no judgment. If your escape, like when you were talking about your escape, I was thinking like, does it look like Dexter's laboratory? Like all of these endless possibilities.
You know, it's interesting. When I say laboratory, since that show came out, I always kind of, in essence, I was thinking that.
Right.
I was thinking that you were going to think that.
So endless possibilities, right? And I think it's wonderful that your escape is not just a physical thing like going to your room, but that you can imagine what your room actually feels like, and then having activities that are your escape, you know, drawing, YouTube videos, reading, whatever the case may be. So it's wonderful to really see the different perspective. And that's part of the reason why I thought, you know, speaking on this or elaborating on it, because I know you've spoken about it before, is so important to know that there is no right or wrong way to have an escape. My escape is a little bit different than yours. I don't know if anybody out there has seen the movie Maleficent with Angelina Jolie, but she lives in like this like wild, like I don't know, is it like fairy tale or just like this land where, you know, she protects all of the beings and whatever the case may be. When I think of a place where I can go to heal, this is what I imagine. You know, I imagine myself walking through a meadow and, you know, taking all the troubles that I have and just putting them in a backpack and leaving them by a tree for a moment. And then I walk into the meadow, and again, if anybody has seen the movie, if not, there's a part where, you know, she kind of puts up the woods to protect the land. So I imagine myself walking into the meadow and the trees kind of like closing behind me, and the backpack is still going to be there when I come out, but I'm going to feel differently. And it's within this meadow where I really savor the grass beneath my feet. I've thought about this quite a bit. In case you're not realizing. But this is where I encourage others to do the same. It doesn't matter what your escape is. You know, the more that you get into it, the more passionate. You know, like something like Dexter's Laboratory, right? You can only imagine, like I start to think about all the possibilities. So it's within my escape, my meadow, that I can savor the grass beneath my feet, the birds chirping, all the fantastic beasts. And this place is really meaningful because it's not a place where I go and avoid my problems. It's a place where I go to recharge, much like I imagine for you, drawing helps you recharge, or being in your room helps you recharge. And I think that that's really important, especially for those who live so much in our heads and spend so much time. You know, our heads are not always the nicest place to be. So why not create that for ourselves, whether it's in a physical way, whether it's in activities, or whether it's using our imagination. And I encourage everybody to use their imagination to see what it feels like to create this place. Again, it's not to avoid things, but it's just to recharge, to re-energize, to know that there is one space. Maybe you have multiple spaces. You know, I also have this other escape. This was like a real thing that happened. I just let it become one of my spaces too. Years ago, I went on a trip to Niagara Falls with my mom, and we stayed in this cabin, beautiful cabin, like I don't know how many square yards. And I remember like across the street there was this like ranch, and I remember being so intrigued because there was like horses. And I remember like being so daring and like crossing the street and like I kind of want to touch the horse. I don't know what it's gonna do, but I felt drawn to it. And I remember I put my hand out and the horse like nudged me a little bit, and it was like such an incredible feeling because it's a horse for one thing. Like wow. And there are times in my life where I can go back to this image because of the feeling that I experience, and it helps me recharged. So a place can be a physical space like a room. It can be an activity. It can be an imagined place, or it can be a memory. You know, there's really endless possibilities, but it is so important. And I've been rambling.
No, not at all. I think that, I mean, I explained the physical place. You explained the mental place.
Yeah.
Not to say that I'm less spiritual or I'm less in touch with my mind as far as where it drifts to, because I do have those thoughts as well. But yeah, the idea is to have a place that helps you feel grounded, makes you like reset and recalibrate. I mean, I don't know if anybody saw the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio where he can go into dreams.
Inception.
And they all keep that thing in their pocket that spins, right?
Yeah.
Well, obviously that lets them know whether they're in a dreamlike state or not. But using your escape in a different way to help you calibrate and realize, or like put you back to zero. And I think that's similar to what you could use your device for. Have it be a symbol of something, so that you go there, you recalibrate, you come back to something at zero, and when you approach something, you're like, oh, I was way off. I wasn't calibrated properly. I overreacted, or I'm way stressed out and I'm not doing a good job, or, maybe I have to walk away from something that I was involved in. Maybe it was an argument, a dispute, a bad day at work, or maybe I lost my cool. There's tons of reasons why we retreat to this place, and it's not to hide. It's not to, it's not to bury ourselves in another existence to avoid responsibility for our lives, but it's really there just to calibrate us, put us back to zero, so that when we come back into the world, we could be better. And I think that's why we have our escapes.
Yeah. You said the same thing I said, just differently, which I honestly love, because that's the whole point. The point is that you and I are two different people, and we can experience things differently, but still come to the same meaningful conclusion. Just like for our listeners, that would be the goal, to encourage others to create an escape, whatever that looks like. There's no right or wrong. It's just go for it. Nobody's going to judge you for it. That's something that is entirely your own, like the token. And I think that, we can use a reminder from time to time that, escapes are great. Just like when I walk out of my meadow and I pick my backpack back up, these things are still there. But because I'm calibrated, or because I'm now at zero, I can pick up the backpack and feel strong and feel like I can carry the weight a little bit longer. So I think that's a good way to remind people, like I said.
Yeah, we're in control of everything in our lives.
Well, kind of. I don't think that we're so much in control of the things in our lives, but we are in control of how we react, because we're not even in control of our feelings. Like, you can't help how you feel, but you can help how you react to those things.
Precisely what I was going to say, but
I cut you off. I got excited.
Yes, that's fine. But yes, our mind controls. Our mind is what speaks to the body. Our mind really holds the narrative, the story in which we're going to tell ourselves. And when our mind is not right, the whole world could be like shattered. I mean, you ever have a bad day, you're like, damn, I don't know how I'm going to get through tomorrow. And then 6 months from then, your life is amazing. You're like, holy crap, tomorrow, the next day, my life is amazing. And it's such a slight difference, but you chose to feel that way. Calibrating our minds, in essence, really does a lot.
Yeah. Again, I don't necessarily feel we choose to feel the way that we feel, but we do choose how we go about it, which is why I thought it was good. He's rolling his eyes for those of you who can't see.
It is always a choice. Yes, there are things that affect our choices. All I'm saying is that our mind is in control of these things.
Yes, that I can agree on. And before we go off on a tangent, I think this is a good way to, just conclude.
Put a plug in it.
That, again, our escape is whatever we mean it to be, no matter what that looks like. And that is our episode for today.
I thank you all for listening. Daniela, where would I be without you? You could bleed me.
Yes, thank you all very much for listening.
Have a good night.